Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome the Honorable Minister of State for Railways and Textiles, Srimati Darshana Jardosh. We are very grateful to ma'am for coming here. I would request Shri Deepak Sood, Secretary General ASSOCHAM, to please accompany her to light the lamp. I would request our other dignitaries to also please join Mr. Sood and ma'am in lighting the lamp. Mr. Vivek Lohia, Shri Animesh Gupta, Shri R.S. Kalsi, Shri Anil Kumar Lahoti, and Shri Shantanu Badkamkar. Please do join in lighting the lamp. Please give a round of applause to our dignitaries. We have made a very auspicious start to the event. I would request them to please take this place on the dais. Thank you all for initiating this auspicious beginning to the conference. We are very honored and privileged to have our esteemed dignitaries joining us today. So, at the very outset, I would request Shri Deepak Sood, Secretary General ASSOCHAM, to please present a bouquet to welcome Srimati Darshana Jardosh, the Honorable Minister of State for Railways and Textile, Government of India. Round of applause, please. Thank you, ma'am, for taking the time out to join us today. We value your time and your presence with us. I would request Shri Vivek Lohia, the Chairman, National Council on Railways, ASSOCHAM, and MD, Jupiter Wagon Limited, to please present a bouquet to Shri Anil Kumar Lahoti, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Ministry of Railways. The National Rail Plan envisages that the share of freight traffic by rail should go up from the current 27% to 45% by 2030. This is no mean task, even though rail transport is the most cost and energy efficient mode of transport in our country today. In the face of competition from roadways, air and waterways, how will the railways double down on its motto of hungry for cargo? Over the course of the day today, we will discuss how rail freight carriers can improve operating parameters, increase containerization of cargo, and gain market share by becoming customer-centric. I would now like to request Shri Deepak Sood, Secretary General ASSOCHAM, to address the audience and welcome everybody. Please put your hands together for Mr. Deepak Sood.
Thank you, Anisha. As always, very good morning to you and to all the dignitaries on the dais. Honorable Minister, thank you very much. आपने इतने शॉर्ट नोटिस पे हमारे को टाइम पहले ऑफिस में दे दिया. The session was on, and as per your commitment, you're here this morning as well. So honestly, very, very grateful. And on behalf of ASSOCHAM, its membership over here, we welcome you to this morning session. I also extend my very, very warm welcome to the new chairman, and congratulations, sir, on taking over this charge, Mr. Anil Kumar Lahoti ji. Thank you also for joining us this morning. Obviously, I have my colleagues from the industry, Mr. Kalsi, Vivek, Mr. Shantanu ji, and Animesh ji. I'm sorry, mixed up the names before. I could not recall them from my memory. India, I think, has the largest, it's the fourth largest railway network that we have. And railway plays a very important role in connecting the country, providing jobs, and making the whole ecosystem very efficient. The key infrastructure, we were talking in the room with the chairman, and we were discussing steel, we were discussing coal. I think the core industry है, वो बहुत ज़्यादा dependent है इस industry पे. But I think Gati Shakti, competitiveness of Indian industry, more and more goods have to be transported on rail rather than on the roads that we're talking about. There's a lot of challenges that the industry faces, and therefore it becomes very pertinent for us to discuss those matters and how the goal of the railways is to move from 27% to 40%, and what we need to do as industry, what we need to do as government, and what we need to do as railways, so that we are able to achieve this target. We've been doing about 6% of GDP growth while the world is in real trouble right now, 6% is very good. But would that remain at 6? I think it'll go to 8. And we have done history somewhere close to a double digit also. So what if that is achieved? So everybody needs to really gear up, keeping those parameters in mind as to what would 2030, 27% to 40% jump actually means in volume terms. So उस सारी चीज को ध्यान में रखते हुए, I think this platform gives an opportunity for us to hear each other. So let's share our thoughts, let's learn from each other. Always out in जो input होता है, वो is always a good input for everybody to learn from. So a very, very good morning once again from me as I close my comments, and look forward to a very, very fruitful discussion for this morning. Anisha, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sood. Now I will request Shri Vivek Lohia, Chairman, National Council on Railways, ASSOCHAM, and Managing Director, Jupiter Wagons Private Limited, to please give the theme address. Please put your hands together and welcome Shri Lohia.
Thank you. I would like to extend the warm welcome to our Honorable Minister Darshana Ji, Chairman Railway Board, and our esteemed colleagues. So I would like to start by saying that currently we are in a historical era when it comes to Indian Railways, because today Indian Railways is going through a major transformation, and we are all of us sitting in the audience and in the dais, we are very lucky to be part of this historical change. When Railway talks about from 27% to 45% railway share by 2030, I don't think that it's aspirational. I think as a country, if we want to achieve the 5 trillion goal, which our Honorable Prime Minister has set for us, we need to see that we achieve this goal. Because today, if you look at Indian Railways, it is the most sustainable form of transport. In terms of, if you look at carbon neutrality, compared to road, it is about 65% to 80% more efficient. We save on fossil fuel, which is today the biggest pollutant. Thirdly, logistics costs in India, which is 15%, as compared to other developed economies, which is somewhere between 4 to 7%. Now, to achieve the 5 trillion target, we need to bring our logistics costs down, or otherwise it is impossible for us to achieve that goal. So railway is today the biggest vehicle from which we can achieve that goal. So keeping all that paradigm in mind, I think railway freight today is going to play a very important part in taking our economy the next step and achieving the vision which the Prime Minister and we ourselves have set for ourselves. Now here the public railway and the private partnership is very crucial to that, and we are seeing railway taking up a lot of initiatives in that regard. The AFTOs which have come, the private terminals, railway is talking about today creating more than 300 private terminals. I think that is an important step. Railway is now, there is more dialogue with the private players, understanding the requirement. If we look at today, we are developing auto wagons for carrying automobiles on railway tracks, which is, so it's not only about bulk transportation, there is more containerized transportation which is happening. So these are steps which are towards that direction. Definitely more needs to be done. But as and more the industry and railway, I think, interact with each other, we will go towards that. Again, digitization in terms of the whole railway freight network. I think that is going to be a crucial step towards achieving this goal. Now, when it comes to railway wagons, we are seeing more and more wagons which are we are adding more digitization into the wagons, which are the wagons are then in terms of maintenance, the wagons now can say that when a wagon is becoming sick, so you can do preventive maintenance. I think this again, instruments like this will again go in a long way. I think all this put together, which I think our esteemed colleagues in today's discussions, I think this will come out much further. I think all this together, all of us can take the steps, I think, to achieve this goal of the 2030 target which we have of 5 trillion economy, as well as 40% market share in railway freight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Indeed, together we can. I would now like to request Shri R.S. Kalsi, the Chairman, National Council on Auto and Auto Ancillaries, ASSOCHAM, and Executive Board Member, Maruti Suzuki India Limited, to please address the audience. Please put your hands together and welcome Shri Kalsi.
Honorable Minister of State for Railways and Textiles, Srimati Darshana Jardoshi, Chairman, Railway Board, Shri Anil Kumar Lahoti ji, other dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you and a warm welcome once again to this event. It gives me immense pleasure to present my views on a topic of strategic significance, freight by rail. I must compliment ASSOCHAM team members for taking up this topic of national importance for today's deliberations. We are thankful to Government of India for framing the policies for supporting logistics growth and enhancing the support system across the country, including railways, the lifeline of the nation. The recent announcement of progressive schemes like National Logistics Policy, Gati Shakti, Multimodal Cargo Terminal Policy, Unified Logistics Interface Platform, robust allocation of rupees 2.4 trillion railway budget, and other favorable and inclusive policies have attracted domestic as well as foreign investors' interest to invest in India. Almost all the OEMs are now connected with a vast network of railways and are joining, innovating to bring efficiency in the whole automotive transportation ecosystem. The NLP policy aims at lowering the logistics cost from 14% to 8% of GDP by 2030 and making our supply chain globally competitive. Maruti Suzuki is regularly using rail mode for dispatching vehicles to dealer destinations across the country. Maruti has taken many initiatives for increasing the contribution of railways in the freight transportation. Year on year, we are the first organization to get AFTO license and to benefit from association with railways. By developing double-deck auto wagons, each double railway rake is equivalent to 40 long-haul trailers. So imagine the kind of decongestion it leads to on Indian roads. The average road distance of a trailer is about 1600 kilometers. Hence, by transporting through railways, we eliminate 64,000 kilometers of the trailer movement on the road per trip. To mention few of our key achievements, we have dispatched more than 14 lakh cars through rail transport, developed 18 destinations across the country serving about 400 cities, also eliminated more than 2 lakh truck trips so far, resulting into saving of more than 2 lakh kiloliters of precious fuel. And we have reduced carbon emissions by 6,600 million tons. By year 2031, we plan to dispatch additional 65 lakh vehicles via rail transport and thus reduce CO2 emissions by 48,000 metric tons. Further, Maruti is committed to invest more than 640 crores in the development of destination terminals and in-plant railway sidings. I would like to bring a couple of points to the kind attention of the Honorable Minister. The areas like timetabled movement, we request for enhancing the speed of automobile carrying rakes to match with the express trains, or shifting to dedicated freight corridors and facilitate their movement under fixed timetable. Currently, the time taken by railways is more or less at par with the time taken by road. However, railways by any logic should be much faster than the road transportation of the vehicles. Support for expediting railway sidings for construction as per the scheduled timelines, and also inclusion of new design rakes which can carry SUVs in both the decks. These rakes would be with increased heights, and these are at different stages of approval as of now. Since the contribution of SUVs in Indian auto industry is increasing, we request to induct such rakes at the earliest. Since these higher rakes can't run on all the routes, it is requested to include all major volume routes for auto OEMs, especially metro cities and northeast connectivity for these rakes. Honorable Minister, on behalf of my colleagues from auto industry and other industry leaders, I would like to reiterate full commitment of OEMs to support the Government of India's vision to achieve 45% freight by 2030. I'm sure that auto industry will make significant contributions in the magnificent journey of economic prosperity of our country. Once again, I am grateful and thankful to the team at ASSOCHAM creating this excellent platform for dialogue between industry and government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kalsi. We are very happy to hear that Maruti using railway freight has brought down carbon emissions. Certainly a very responsible auto company. I would now like to request Shri Anil Kumar Lahoti, Chairman and CEO, Railway Board, Ministry of Railways, Government of India, to please address the audience. He has an urgent meeting, sir, and we are very grateful to you for coming here and sharing with us your vision for the railways ahead. Please put your hands together and welcome Shri Anil Kumar Lahoti.
Honorable Minister of State for Railways and Textiles, Srimati Darshana Jardoshi, all my colleagues on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. As just now my previous speakers have mentioned, that we have to work towards increasing the railway share in freight transport to 45% to bring down the logistics cost to around 8% of the GDP. Indian Railways have already prepared a long-term strategic plan, which is called National Rail Plan, for the growth of the rail sector by 2050. Now, as a subset of that, or keeping in view the long-term goals, a very important exercise has been taken up, which we call Mission 3,000 million tons. As some of you may know, last year we had loaded a little over 1,400 million tons of freight, and that was around 26% of the total freight transport. This year we are already targeting 1,500 plus tons. 23-24 we want to add another 100 million tons or more. But by 29-30 we have to reach a level of 3,000 million ton. So what are the principal constraints? The principal constraints are infrastructure capacity. As most of the people present in this hall know, that the investment in railway had not been commensurate with the growth of economy. While highways received substantial funding, railway was not getting funding on the same levels. We also have to develop substantial terminal capacity, first mile and last mile connectivity for capturing the traffic. We need to increase our rolling stock fleet to carry the traffic, and when we increase the rolling stock fleet, we need to develop adequate maintenance facilities for the rolling stock. So this is the kind of massive investment required for us to reach the level of 3,000 million tons, but we are right on track. Now, under this mission 3,000 million tons, almost 1,200 works or projects have been identified which are to be completed in next 5 years. The projected cost of this capex is about 8.5 lakh crore. This includes almost 9,000 plus kilometers of new lines adding to the network, doubling and multi-tracking almost 25,000 kilometers, automatic signaling on over 10,000 kilometers of track to increase the capacity and the speed of transport. We are also planning to upgrade our traction, that is the overhead equipment, from 1 into 25 kV to 2 into 25 kV, so that we can carry the higher freight volumes. To increase the carrying capacity of the freight trains, the 25-ton fitness is planned over additional 8,000 kilometers of track. We intend to add more than 1.5 lakh wagons in our fleet, more than 7,000 locomotives in the fleet. Now, testimony to this implementation of the plan is, last year the budgetary outlay for railway was at the budget stage 1.37 lakh crore. Seeing the good progress of railway, this was enhanced to 1.59 lakh crore, an increase of 22,000 crore at the time of revised budget grant. And this year, as all of us have seen, the budget grant has been increased from 1.59 lakh crore to 2.41 lakh crore, an increase of more than 50%. So the government's seriousness about it and the support to the railway is quite evident. While we are planning all this infrastructure expansion, as one of my previous speaker mentioned, the national logistics policy and the national master plan, transportation master plan, have already brought in the network level planning between different modes of transport. So already DPIIT and the Ministry of Commerce is now doing integrated planning of various modes of transport, seeing the critical gaps in transportation infrastructure, planning for bridging those gaps. So every single project which is now being taken up goes through a process of evaluation by the network planning group, where the infrastructure being built by road, by ports and railways, all are seen together, and then a decision is taken. A very good system of BISEG has been developed at BISEG and Ahmedabad, where they have got the complete digital information of the transportation infrastructure of different modes, and also various utility infrastructures, the land details, the forest details, where we can simply, when we want to plan a particular infrastructure project, we can go there and see the alignment, where it should go, what are the critical aspects to be seen while planning the infrastructure. So a very advanced level of planning is already taking place. While our speed of commissioning infrastructure, additional infrastructure, was about 4 kilometers per day during 2009 to 14, this has already increased to about 11 kilometers per day in 22-23, and we intend to take it further to almost 15-16 kilometers per day in the coming year. So this is the speed with which we are going to expand the infrastructure. Some of the critical components for this are commissioning feeder routes to the dedicated freight corridor so that the traffic can be taken via dedicated freight corridors. And we have already taken up 100 Gati Shakti terminals under the Gati Shakti policy, and these more are planned to be taken up. Modernization and upgradation of existing rail terminals is also being taken up with private participation or with government funding, as the case may be. Containerization is being encouraged. Automobile traffic, Mr. Kalsi has already mentioned in details what we are doing. We, besides the dedicated wagons and rakes, we are also converting our old coaches into NMG and NMGHS for transporting automobiles, to transfer the automobile transportation to rail. For connectivity to mines and ports is another thing which has been taken up. There have been about 100 projects have been identified for improving connectivity for coal, and 54 Sagarmala projects have been identified for improving connectivity to the ports. To encourage private sector to participate in development of terminal facilities, the land management policies have been substantially eased on Indian Railways. The right-of-way policies have been substantially simplified, and a very customer-friendly policy has been issued in October 2022 recently. The lease charges for new cargo terminals will only be 1.5% of the market value of the land per annum. So which we can appreciate is very, very attractive, and this is to be escalated by 6% per annum. And the tenure of lease also has been increased to 35 years, while it was only 5 years earlier, and which was a barrier in putting investment. So that barrier has now been eased. To encourage the private sector to add to the wagon fleet, general purpose wagon investment scheme has already been provided for the logistics service providers, manufacturers, etc., to procure wagons. And under this scheme, 37 companies have already registered, and more than 560 rakes have been approved for operation. 87 have already been inducted by January 23. For the freight train operations also, the policy has been liberalized for procurement of special purpose or high capacity wagons and the AFTO scheme, which has been discussed. So all these older schemes have now been merged into a new scheme in March 2020. RoRo service has also been added in this scheme. The registration fees have been waived. Net worth as eligibility criteria has been removed. Maintenance of cost of wagons is now being borne by railways. 116 rakes have been inducted under this liberalized special freight train operator scheme, and 43 rakes have been inducted under AFTO scheme. Even foreign companies have been allowed for registration under the wagon leasing scheme. So these are various initiatives taken, and as we get feedback from industry, Railway is open to further improvise its policies for the industry to make it more convenient to have business with railways. In parcel policy also, because parcel is a big segment of transport, lot of liberalization is being done. The duration for leasing of parcel coaches has been increased from 3 years to 5 years. The security deposit required has been reduced. Short-term leasing has also been permitted for parcels. Another scheme has been taken for e-commerce transportation through suburban trains. So, permission has also been given for leasing of parcel vans in various passenger trains, Rajdhani trains, Duronto trains, etc. So, these are various facilities given for the parcel traffic. Parcel can be booked by up to 90 days in advance, so this has also been liberalized. All the terminals have been opened for booking of parcel traffic, so that this is not a barrier in booking parcels. Use of railway land has been permitted for stacking or storage of parcels. E-parcel way bills and e-payment has been introduced for ease of doing the business. Another initiative which has been announced in the last budget and has been implemented by railways is a joint parcel product with India Post, because it is believed that the postal department has a strength in the first mile and last mile connectivity to bring the parcels to the station and to deliver it to the customer. So a joint product has been offered with the help of the postal department. And in that process, now we have also started running of full parcel trains, timetable, as I think Mr. Kalsi mentioned. Timetable parcel trains are now being introduced, and 15 routes have been identified for timetable parcel trains. The Gati Shakti cargo terminal policy was launched in December 21. It enables construction of cargo terminals on railway land also. So this is a significant facility which has been given in this policy. Application process has been substantially simplified. Online application and time-bound approvals have been provided. Standard layouts can be adopted. No departmental charges will be levied if a private investor is developing a Gati Shakti cargo terminal. No license fee is levied for a linear connectivity through the railway land. Common user traffic facilities will be developed at railway cost. So, all possible help has been given for developing Gati Shakti cargo terminals, and we are getting a good response. So far, already 26 Gati Shakti cargo terminals have been commissioned, and 96 more locations have been provisionally identified for development. In principle, approval has also been given for 97 locations. So substantial activities taking place in this initiative also. In terms of the tariff, automatic freight rebate scheme has been introduced for traffic loaded in traditional empty directions. Incentives have also been given for transportation of fly ash, bed ash, and short lead concession is also being given for these products. 2 or multi-point load rakes are being permitted for other than covered wagons. Ethanol transport is another thing which is now coming to railways, and 2-point rakes have been allowed for ethanol transportation. Station to station rate guidelines are also there, where a particular customer commits traffic for station to station transport, we provide incentive for that. Some of the non-tariff measures taken are permitting letter of credit for goods traffic to Bangladesh. Also, the goods traffic commodities have been mapped in a harmonized system of nomenclature codes for convenience of the customers. For ease of doing business, lot of digitization has been done. Digital payments can be done. E-registration of the demand has been permitted. E-transfer of the railway receipt has been permitted. While these may sound small, but these were big hassles in the past, many of you would have experienced. Dedicated freight corridor, 1,337 kilometers on the eastern, 1,506 kilometers on the western dedicated freight corridor, total 2,843, out of which 1,700 kilometers has already been commissioned, and except for a small stretch of 109 kilometers between Vetarna to JNPT, rest of the entire dedicated freight corridor is planned to be commissioned in the year 2023. So, which will be a big boon for freight transportation. Number of trains are already being run in the sections commissioned in the dedicated freight corridor. To quote a figure, in 2023, more than 38,000 trains have run on the dedicated freight corridor. Some of the other initiatives which may be smaller but are helping the economy are one station, one product, where at number of stations we have allowed the local artisans to set and also provided stalls to them to come and sell their products. So this is helping the local economy and the local artisans because station is a good place where they can get customers. Now, besides freight, I will also mention about what we are doing for tourism. We have announced a Bharat Gaurav train scheme, which is intends theme-based tourist circuit trains for historically significant or culturally significant areas. And the first train under this scheme was the Shirdi Yatra, which was launched from Coimbatore to Mantralayam and Shirdi. And subsequently, large number of other Bharat Gaurav trains have been launched, which includes the famous Ramayana Yatra and other trains. Also, to improve the passenger experience at the stations, redevelopment of stations, which was being talked about and being planned for a long time, has now started getting implemented. Already 3 stations which have been significantly redeveloped have been commissioned, which includes Sir M. Vishwareshraya Terminal in Bengaluru, Gandhinagar Terminal in Gujarat, and Rani Kamalapati Terminal at Bhopal. And work is in progress at 49 stations for major upgradation. Many others are in the planning and tendering stage. And out of these 49, already Honorable Prime Minister or the Vice President have laid foundation stones for 21 stations. For the wagons and the locomotives, our coaches, the availability of forged wheels used to be a critical constraint. Indian Railways have called a tender for setting up a forged wheel factory, and this tender is already under process, and the procurement is of the order of 80,000 wheels per annum. We have also initiated an innovation policy to encourage the local entrepreneurs to come up with their solutions or suggestions on the railway sector. And in this innovation policy, we are providing sharing the cost of the innovation proposal. Kavach, the indigenous automatic train protection scheme, is being developed completely indigenously by railway engineers with the support of the industry. Already 2,000 kilometers has been commissioned, and it is planned to cover almost 34,000 kilometers with this scheme to improve safety. So these are, I just wanted to give you an overview of what all we are doing when we say that we want to take the railway share to 45% of the total freight transport. In this August forum, I request the industry to take these large number of initiatives being taken by Government of India and the Ministry of Railways, and avail these opportunities for investment and to avail the transportation by railway. Indian Railways are now open to partner with the industry in the growth of railway sector, and we welcome whatever suggestions and proposals you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Indeed, I'm sure the industry is also very upbeat about the outlook for improved freight traffic, and I'm sure we'll get lots of good ideas today. I would now like to request Shri Animesh Gupta, President and Chief Logistics Officer, Jindal Steel and Power, to please address the audience. Please put your hands together for Shri Animesh Gupta.
Thank you. Namaste to all. Honorable Minister, the Chairman of Railway, and August gathering on the board, on the dais. Lot of stats has already been explained, told, and we have heard from the Chairman of Railway Board. So I will not, and we are running, I have been instructed to wrap up quickly because we are running late. So I would rather take up only few points because the stats is already known to us and it was already there in the internet, in the open space. So the National Railway Plan emphasizes that share of freight traffic by rail should go up from current share of 27 to 45% and up by about say 20 more percent. Present share, what the chairman Mr. Lahoti was telling us, 18 million metric ton has been done in 21-22, out of which 45% happens to be the coal, 17% is iron ore, and 38% has been the other commodities. If we have to ramp up from 27 to 45%, this logistics needs to be redefined. Logistics is basically a logic with a stick. वो मास्टर जी वाली stick नहीं, stick, measuring stick, and this is very important. So although we feel that by 2030 we will be reaching with 45%, and that is what is being aimed, but there are few enablers which are missing and which we see and which we would like to use this forum to advise to the railway management to bring it up. Like if I talk about my company, Jindal Steel and Power Limited, we are presently producing 9.3 million metric tons. By 2030, even we imagine to be producing 390% more to reach up to 37.7 million metric ton. So, and our present share of freight with railway is about 65%, which we planned to be 90%, except for the 10%, which is the last mile. Now, what are the enablers and where we are lacking? I'm skipping a couple of things. We have to keep in mind about the environment. So, as Mr. Lahoti and Mr. Kalsi has also mentioned, so if we move on rail as compared to road, there is a 4 times less carbon emission. So we should have the thrust on this. The steel industry is supporting the status upgrade from developing to a developed nation with Sabka Saath and Sabka Vikas, and vocal for our local policy of the Prime Minister. We need to manufacture and we need to contribute more and more. I represent the steel industry of the country where we have lot of challenges, and those challenges I was discussing in the visiting room with the chairman. We have lot of challenges on movement of our finished goods. The average speed, which I am told, which is there in the open space of the rail, of freight rail, is about 15 to 16 kilometers per hour. And the 2030 sign-up document says it should be 50 kilometers per hour. So we have to see the gap. kahan 15 or kahan 50 means we have to go 3 times. And the challenges are of the infrastructure. Now, infrastructure, there are some major issues. If I take the stats of 2-3 sections in our area, which is east of India and Orissa area, the delay in projects, a specific Angul Sukinda rail line, it took 7.4 years delays, which was supposed to be completed in February 2015, got completed in July 22. 7.5 साल extra lagaya. Then another Baspani Jakpura doubling line, which is a very small section. It was supposed to be completed in March 2019, is getting completed, expected to be in December 2023, which is about 4.8 years delayed. So when I am saying logistic, logic with a stick, these measurements, madam, needs to be there. And if this is not happening, then 2030 vision is not going to get completed. We have to measure it every day, every month, what is happening. We can talk big, but to reach, जैसे स्कूल में मास्टर जी ने सिखाया था, अगर एग्जाम में पास होना है तो डेली जो पढ़ाया गया उसको रिव्यू करना है अगले दिन. And that is probably happening, but not being implemented. With these small words, I would like to wrap up with one last point, which is steel industry has lot of byproducts, like a slag which comes out. Now we produce, it is a necessary byproduct. Slag movement happens only and only in box and wagons. It's a special type of box which is being used for coal transportation. The thrust of the government is 100% on using N boxes or box N as they are referred to on coal. What do I do with my slag? How do I transport it? We have more than 5 lakh tons stored in my place. And this slag is utilized in cement industry, infrastructure again. It is not reaching there. Cement industry is suffering for their raw material. So this needs to be taken care of. Again, I'll re-emphasize, logistic means logic with a stick. Rationalization of usage of boxes needs to be there. And with that, I wrap up. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Please put your hands together and welcome Srimati Darshana Jardosh, the Honorable Minister of State for Railways and Textile, Government of India. I request ma'am to address the audience.
दीपक सूद जी, विवेक लोहिया जी, श्री अनिमेश गुप्ता जी, आर.एस. कसली जी, अनिल कुमार जो हमारे बीच रहे नहीं, अभी रेलवे के पूरे आइडियाज़ को बता के पूरा विज़न दिखा के वो एक मीटिंग में गए हैं, और शांतनु बदमारकर जी. Freight loading by railways, a way forward. The topic chosen by SOCHM is very relevant in today's time, in this Amrit Kal, when our respected Prime Minister have envisioned to make India a fully developed nation by 2047. The rail sector will play an important role in this today, when logistic cost is estimated to be around 14% of GDP, which is higher than many developed countries. Both the government and the industry are determined to bring it down to below 10%. When we talk about the National Rail Plan, our target is to increase the share of railway in freight transportation from about 27% to 45%. Indian Railway is on the path of continuous progress. Whether it is the pace of track laying, procurement of wagons, availability of locos, construction of new loading terminals, or various schemes for the industry. In all these areas, the railways has done remarkable work in recent years. In all the ways, whether it is road transport, air transport, coastal transport, or pipeline, in all these, rail itself is considered as the cheapest and most accessible means. Not only this, from the point of view of environment also, railway is a very efficient means of transport. Indian Railway has played an important role in transporting goods to remote areas of the country through its freight operation service. Besides moving goods to various ports, the export. Till now, the use of rail is more in carrying bulk goods, but today many goods which move by road can also be brought on rail, especially consumer goods which can be easily sent from one city to another through containers. Keeping all these things in mind, a target has been set to increase the share of railways by 45%, for which basically four things are required: track availability, wagon and rake, terminal availability, and various freight schemes. There has been a lot of emphasis on these things in the last 8 years. For example, from the year 2006 to 14, Indian Railways used to commission project of about 4.16 kilometers per day, while from year 2014 till 21-22, it has been increased to 7 kilometers per day, and in the year 2023 it has further increased for 12 kilometer per day. The fast completing project will contain every nook and corner of the country. Similarly, from the year 2006 to 14, Indian Railway doubled 405 kilometers of track, while from the year 2014 till now, 13,080 kilometers of track doubling has been done. Today, when DFCCIL is 61 commission, the freight movement will get a new impetus on once become fully operational. Not only freight, but it will also help in increasing the speed of goods trains. Similarly, Railways has successfully completed 85% electrification of its network in record time, and I am hopeful that it will be 100% completed in the coming financial year. Government of India has been allocated highest ever 2.40 thousand crore rupees capex fund for the 23-24 for railways. Indian Railways has placed order for about 84,000 wagons this year, which is highest ever to increase freight loading. Its arrival will also help in capturing freight loading to a great extent. Similarly, various schemes have been introduced for the purchase of specially type of wagon by the industry. Indian Railway is launching a new product in collaboration with India Post of provide door-to-door service to customer, in which first mile, last mile services will be rendered by Indian Post and middle mile services will be provided by Indian Railways. Indian Railways has been providing various facilities and concessions related to freight movement from the time to time, and as a result of all the above efforts, Railway has achieved unprecedented success in loading, and it is expected that highest hour loading of 1500 million tons will occur this year. Reciprocally, India Railway also expect from the industry to make their contribution by building more and more terminals under the Gati Shakti policy, by the invest in special type of wagons and send goods by rail as aggregators, especially consumer goods. I believe the industry can play a significant role in increasing freight loading by rail by implementing the policies brought by the government, and also be rendering the valuable suggestions. Reduction of logistic costs is not only in the interest of the industry but also in the interest of the customers and nation as a whole. Let us together take the growth story forwarded. Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am.
I would now like to request for the vote of thanks, and for that, I would like to invite Shri Shantanu Bhatkamkar, the Chairman, Maharashtra State Development Council ASSOCHAM, and Managing Director, ATC Group.
Namaskar and good morning. I am here for express vote of thanks. And mind you, word express has its roots in railways. Word express started with railways because express time. Honorable Srimati Darshana Jardosh, Honorable Minister for Railways and Textile, Madam, thanks for your presence and thanks for your address. We are indeed honored to have you here. We also had Mr. Anil Kumar Lahoti. We had our own panelists from ASSOCHAM, Mr. Kalsi, Mr. Gupta, Mr. Lohia, and our own Secretary General, Mr. Deepak Sood, and above all, industry experts, stakeholders, and customers and users of railway service. Thanks for being here. We have two interesting sessions to follow. I will just conclude, Madam, by saying that the first industrial revolution started, one of the component was railway. We spoke about fourth industrial revolution. अभी जो fifth industrial revolution आने वाली है, वो data और ये है. वैसे data के साथ bricks and mortars भी लगता है, goods भी लगता है, and I am sure railway will play a big role in the next industrial revolution, which is ESG, जो हम काफी बात कर रहे हैं अभी, environment, social and governance, और उसमें sustainability और सप्लाई चेन रेजिलियंस भी प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऐड कर रहे हैं मल्टी मॉडल के साथ. उसमें रेलवे का बड़ा हाथ रहेगा और ASSOCHAM आपके संपर्क में रहेगी और ASSOCHAM सारे जो लॉजिस्टिक्स स्टेक होल्डर है उनके और यूजर्स के संपर्क में ऑलरेडी है. तो हम आपसे काफी सक्रिय रहेंगे और आपका इसमें जो सपोर्ट है वो बहुत बहुमूल्य है. धन्यवाद.
Thank you so much, sir. And a big round of applause for all our speakers on stage, for the Honorable Minister for making the time to come here. Thank you, ma'am, for your presence here. The entire industry is indebted to you for sharing with us your plans for increasing freight by rail. I request all of you to please gather for a group photograph. Big round of applause for our speakers on stage. Thank you, ma'am, for coming here and sharing with us your vision for the railways and how freight can be increased on railways. Thank you so much, ma'am. I request all of you to please stay in your places and make way for ma'am to exit the hall. We will be taking a very short tea break and will reconvene in 10 minutes for our next session, which is an interesting one where we will have presentations and speakers present their views. This is on the challenges and opportunities in rail freight transportation in India. Do come back for more. Rail freight has been losing market share to competitors, with the exception of coal, where 50% of the volumes of coal are moved by the railways. To become more operationally efficient, it is crucial to raise the share of containerized freight as well as last-mile connectivity with multimodal cargo terminals. These are some of the issues that we will discuss in our first session on the challenges and opportunities in rail freight transportation in India. Please welcome on stage our moderator for this session. Please put your hands together and welcome Shri Raghu Dayal, former CMD, Concord. Please give a round of applause as he makes his way to the stage. Please also welcome Shri Mukul Saran Mathur, PED, Infrastructure, Ministry of Railways. Please welcome our other speakers on stage. Shri Shantanu Bhatkamkar, the Managing Director, ATC Group. Shri Manish Puri, President, ACTO. Shri Anurag Garg, Vice President Logistics TMIL, and Shri Nitin Jain, AVP Resurgent India. I would also like to invite on stage Shri Animesh Gupta, President and Chief Logistics Officer, Jindal Steel and Power, to please come up on stage and participate in this session. We are running a little behind time, so I request all our speakers to keep the presentations or their talks slightly short. Thank you so much. I would like to hand it over to Mr. Dayal.
Friends, namaskar. Before I start, I've been told that we are running out of time. Well, I do not know why I am here. I've been coming to these sessions for the last 60 odd years, and I was telling Shantanu Bhai that things don't seem to really change. We have very eminent speakers here, and when the ASSOCHAM organizers asked me, I said, I'll be very happy to come and join, because at this age, we hardly get any opportunity to know what is exactly happening, except hearing some important people on television, etc. A lot of rhetoric, a lot of slogans. And then when I was told that there is a very exciting topic for this national conference, freight by rail, and the way forward for achieving 45% freight share, my old friend and colleague, Mr. Mukul Sarin Mathur, will tell us how exactly we are about to reach, because we heard Mr. Lahoti telling us that we are right on track. We have our national rail plan, we have our logistics policy, we have Gati Shakti as the new buzzword. There's no reason why we should not be able to achieve what we have set out to achieve. Well, I heard when I started my schooling, the teacher telling me that hope, not fear, is the creative impulse in life. So I live on hope. Country lives on hope. India has to be hopeful. And very large number of statistics have been thrown right in the morning in the introductory session. We have been told that we have to go from 27% to 45% by 2030. If you permit me, this 27% is outdated. Niti Aayog, only a few months ago, have told us that railway share in national freight market is just about 17 and 18%. So our task, according to me, becomes a little harder. And then, all right, even if you move from the present level, as we were told that we are going to touch about 1,500 million tons of originating freight this year to 22-23. If you go from 1,500 to 3,000 mission by 2030, my rough arithmetic tells me that you have to grow at a compound growth rate annually of more than 9%. In comparison with this, the last 10 years, 2010-11 to 2020-21, my rough calculation, from 926 million tons, we reached 1,232 or 33. It was, in comparison with the preceding 10 years, which moved from 504 to 926, CAGR was about 6.3%. We came down to only 2.9%. So our CAGR for 10 years was just 2.9%. And we have to grow, as I said, more than 9%. And if you take, which is the real measure, not originating tons, but net ton kilometers, we in 2010-11 to 2020-21, we grew at the rate of 1.4%. In comparison with the preceding 10 years of 7.1%. Now, I don't want to inflict these numbers, but they become important. And why is it necessary for India to be thinking in terms of 45%? It is because, A, it is necessary for fulfilling the national commitment of decarbonizing the economy and infrastructure, railways being benign mode along with water transport. The entire logistics domain depends on railways for two reasons, two main reasons. One, to decarbonizing process, it's necessary to have 45% in 2030. And second is cutting down what Prime Minister said while unveiling the logistics policy, the pain point of the industry, additional cost, which renders the Indian product uncompetitive. If we have been told the current level is 15% of GDP is the cost of logistics, and our target is to go down to 8%. I say, all right, 8%, even if it is difficult, it is. Let us talk in terms of 3% to begin with. And 3% over a period of 9 years, from 2022 to 2030, if we go from 15% to 12%, we save 3%. And at a $3 trillion economy, it gives us net gain of more than 7 lakh crore of rupees per year. Now, these naturally, as I said, I don't want to, we have very distinguished panel to hear and learn from them. Only thing is you stakeholders interested in this particular subject, you know that transport and logistics is a crucial aspect today. Prime Minister himself has been inaugurating every single Vande Bharat anywhere in the country. He's laying emphasis on logistics. So logistics today is a high-tech industry. It is an integral part of production distribution process, and it is crucial for not only the economic development, but its social development in the country. And number of things have happened, railways being a very crucial aspect. The whole thing in terms of sustainability and cost saving, the entire strategy is predicated on development of railways getting additional share. And that has been eluding us. I think it's time to rise above slogans and rhetoric. We can hear it, we keep on hearing these speeches. The task is important, task is not easy. Not that it is very difficult, but it's not easy. And railways itself is undergoing tremendous amount of transformation, we are told. Largest capital expenditure available, no dearth of money. Both hardware and software is sought to be going through a transformation phase. So we hope and feel. I have only half a minute to add. Railways, according to me, have three things to do. One, they have to essentially unlearn quite a lot. Railways must not be merely straight-jacketed into bureaucratic structure and mindset. It has to be customer-centric, which means it has to view itself as a commercial entity, delivering the nation's goods economically, adequately, and in time. Time is the cutting edge. A number of things which it has to shed its old mindset. It has to relearn. Second is relearning. Railways had tremendous amount of credit to talk about. It was many years ago, decades ago, it has QTS, quick transit service, less than wagon load. It has system of even out agencies, collection and delivery of goods at the roadside, door-to-door service, and things like that. It introduced Rajdhani, introduced the 5-ton container in 1965-66, when the world was not even aware of true intermodal traffic. Indian Railways was leader in this particular. And Indian Railways, thirdly, has to learn quite a lot. Learn from industry, first of all, what is required. I heard the chairman talking in terms of, and the Mr. Kalsi also, we request railways. Every time we request, I think it has to be other way around. The railways requests industry what is required, what we can do, how we can be partners. And I think world over, whatever is happening, whether USA, etc., when every single mode, they get together in an integrated framework to be able to ensure that each mode delivers according to the best strength it commands. It has to be partnership. Partnership in effect, not merely on paper. I don't think I have reason to continue in this manner. I will request my colleague, I'll call them in the serial order as it is, and I find the first one is Mr. Shantanu Bamkar, whom I had the privilege of knowing decades ago, who is an industry doyen, who understands. Sorry. I have been subject to correction. I've been told that Mr. Mukul Sharan Mathur will do a presentation first and thereafter will continue. So we'll hear Mr. Shantanu a little later. May I request Mukul to please enlighten us on whatever he has to say. You'll do a present PowerPoint. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very good morning to the distinguished guest on the dais and in the audience. I'll keep a very short presentation, a very focused one, because this is a subject where I think people can go on, and with the industry there and the railways on one side, there is always bound to be a lot of discussions in terms of quality of service, policies. But nevertheless, the topic given to me was the challenges and opportunities. Once you know any organization that is functioning in a particular environment, the challenges are defined by the environment. As a national transporter, today I see that there are 4 or 5 very critical challenges. Foremost being the capacity constraints. For long, railways had a history of underinvestments, and everybody knew it. We had seen how in last decade there is a definite push for enhancement of the annual plans of the railways, and it is showing the results also. Apart from the capacity, which was a serious bottleneck, second was the assets, acquisitions of assets, whether it is rolling stock, wagons, coaches, locomotives. Third issue, important, was the mobility on its network because of the underinvestments, not taking up doubling work, lack of focus on doublings of lines, third lines, fourth lines, non-creation of DFC getting delayed a bit. So the mobility was a third big challenge. the varied customer requirement, as Prabhu Dayal sir has also pointed out, not really understanding what customer is looking at, what industry is looking at. Perhaps that was another challenge, that you have such a variety of customer base, you have variety of the requirements of each industry, whether it is fertilizer, food grain, cement, oil, ports, shipping lines, that really understanding their requirement and implementing on a pan-Indian basis at a policy level poses some very, very serious challenges. Also, another, I would say, important was that the share into the market. The overall market size was growing. Right from 1950s, if you see it, the railways had a very, very big chunk of share. Perhaps at that time, the economy was not producing that much. If you look at figures, today we have a basket of total potential, I would say a basket of roughly around 5,000 million tons. In that 5,000 million tons, perhaps railways is moving around, we will do around 1,500 million ton, just crossing 1,500 million tons this year, targeting around 1,600 next year. So out of the total basket, that is the railway's share. While the overall size of this basket has grown up, right from 50s to almost by 55 times, the railways' growth in terms of ability or carried million tons has grown by only 20 times. So yes, there is a mismatch, that how the economy is growing, how the production is going on, whether the national transporter is able to fulfill the requirements of its customers. That's a big, big challenge. And with every challenge, I would say if the organization is able to respond to these challenges, moving on the right path, it results in opportunities for the industry. If we are, as an organization, able to give a very, very favorable response to each of these challenges, it creates a host of business opportunities for the industry. Coming to slightly structured, I'm not going to be sticking to a very, very structured way of presentations, but nevertheless, this is what I'm talking about in 2019 in the rail plan, as part of the rail plan, when the analysis was done. Overall, if you see the market size around, say, 4709, which I said around 5,000 million tons, what railways is not able to target is the non-conventional goods. You see on the huge market size. If you look at the figures, non-conventional good, that is 2,000 million tons. Out of 5,000 million tons, roughly 2,000 million ton is the cargo, which is constitute 43% of the total basket. And out of this 43% of the total basket, perhaps the railways is having a very, very minuscule share of roughly around 5 to 6%. So while we are very good in terms of moving coal, iron, fertilizer, food grains, limestone, and all these bulk commodities, steel, fuel, yes, containers, still it is the area where we have to further go ahead, because that's the further, and also these other commodities. If you look at how railways have been responding over years, when Mr. Lahoti said we are on the right path, so we are taking leaps. It may not be a very, very quantum leap, but still if you look at figures, what we have achieved in the last 2 years, the incremental loading, if you look at, we have been doing 1,500, we are targeting 1,600 million tons. But if you look at just the incremental loading that we have done in last 2 years, 2021-22 around 185 million ton, 84 million ton roughly this year we will do. It clocks to around 269 or 270 million ton. And right from 2011 onwards, if you total up, it comes to around 275 or 270. So what you are doing actually in last 10 years, you have been able to achieve in last 2 years. And that is what I say that, yes, we may not be achieving a quantum leap, but we are in a process of achieving a quantum jump. And the government is very keen that the railways does it. It's a major challenge, and we are quite hopeful that we will be able to do it, because now with 3,000 million ton target, internal target that we are targeting by 2027, and the whole flow of investments, if you look at, they are flowing to achieve these 2027 target of roughly around 3,000 million ton. Now, how you can actually enhance your market share? As I said initially, capacity augmentation was a major challenge. Terminal improvement works I am again focusing on, because this was a very low-hanging fruit, but perhaps very low investments have gone into this area in last, I would say, not even a decade, last perhaps 2 or 3 decades. And this is perhaps the first year. I have not seen media reporting on this. I have not seen business conferences going into the budget documents on this. But I'll show you the figure that this year the allocation is perhaps one of the highest ever in the history of the railways, and it is a commitment to show that we want to improve on the situation of the IR terminals. But that is creating some kind of a bottlenecks. You are creating large scale capacity on your network. You are doing doubling work, you are doing tripling work, you are creating dedicated freight corridors. But then it boils down whether your terminals are equipped for a quick turnaround. And this year, almost, if you look at the previous year, last year figures were roughly around 2,000 odd crores in the terminal improvement. This year we have clocked around roughly around 12,000 crores only for terminal improvements. All the good sheds, pan-Indian railway bases are being targeted for improvement, and that's a very big business opportunity for the people working under the sector. Adequate availability of rolling stock, again, as I must be reading in the newspapers, that railways realize that this is one of the major areas that we have to pull up. And one of the biggest orders of the wagon manufacturing, roughly around 80,000, spread over next 3 years, will be acquired, which is one of the largest I had seen in the railways history. Enhancement of mobility comes from various measures, whether they are signaling and telecom works, whether they are creating capacities, whether they are doing small works like yard remodelings or removing small bottlenecks. And enhancing basket of commodities is another major area. As I said, that the other commodity basket, which was around 43% of the total basket, enhancing your market share from 5%, if you can just move up to say 10% or so, it will have a huge impact in terms of the total tonnage that you are carrying. Just briefly touching upon what railways is doing, capacity augmentation, I think people are aware, huge allocations in terms of resources are being made. We have categorized differently internally that what are our supercritical works, what are our critical works, which are the coal mining areas works, which are the port area works, where the last and the first mile connectivities. So it is nowhere a very conventional way of planning things. We are having a very focused approach to finishing of the works, that wherever you are seeing that capacity constant is taking place, wherever the potential is there, and for the first time under Mission 3000 that we prepared in 2027 to achieve that, the focus was, even if the lines are not sanctioned, go up to the mines, go up to the ports, pick up those sectors, put up into the sanction list, sanction those projects and then execute it. And that is why a higher allocation has been kept, because you are doing these 50 last and first mile projects, they are not sanctioned. Because we realize that this is the industry requirement. If industry is not able to come forward, we are looking at going to the market, going to the field level, realizing that there are cement plants coming up in the region. I was the principal chief operations and the commercial manager on West Central Railway. I realized that although we are frequently going on inspections, I had no idea. There were 3 cement plants coming up in certain areas of Madhya Pradesh, but the industry never came to us. So there is a strong lack of communication. In spite of having a good exchange at the higher level, but at the brass tack level still, you lack that kind of information. And when we realized that, we immediately processed, and within few days the work was sanctioned of the FLS. Just a small note to the ministry and immediately on WhatsApp, and it just got cleared. So that the pace at which the railways is working is phenomenal now. It is no more a conventional mode of having some kind of a board committee and realize. Yeah. Similarly, on the terminals, as I said, Gati Shakti terminals, a lot of thing has been said on the Gati Shakti. PFTs have been commissioned, 26 Gati Shaktis have been commissioned, 150 proposals are already on the pipeline. Enhanced loco production, as I said, that for the railways PSU production units, 1290 locomotives per year is the target every year for next 2 years. Auto traffic, as I said, 43 rakes have been inducted, and apart from this, 100 rakes converted have been put into the auto circuit by the railways to go in for. Average speeds have got enhanced. The published figure is now 37 kmph. If you look at capex, just to quickly wind up a few slides, the graph is going upwards. The capital expenditure of 2,60,000 this year in the budget. You see the kind of budgetary support. In 14-15, we were clocking around 30,000. This year, 2,40,000. So the government don't want to leave it to chance that whether private sector is coming or not, we are committed to improving the infrastructure of the railways. We will put the money because it is an instrument to deliver, to support the economic growth, and that is perhaps the reason that a very, very huge allocation has been made. If you look at the pace of the commissioning of the new lines, 2009-14 we were doing 1,500, now we are doing around 4,000 kilometers of commissioning this year. Asset enhancement, if you look at locomotives, roughly around 1,200. This is minus the Madhepura, Marora or the private sector contribution. 700 to 800 locomotives every year we used to induct. The target for the next 2 years is around 1,290. Wagons, as I said, 21 to 26,000. Everywhere you are doing almost 12,000. Now we are clocking around 20,000, 21,000, 25,000. Electrification at a very, very fast pace. That the minister already said that we are looking at completion of the whole electrification this year, doing around 6,500. Doubling again a phenomenal pace. This is the last slide. I just want to stop at this. That the allocations, if you see, right, even from the last year comparison, 2022-23 and 2023-24, 28% increase in the budgetary allocations of the new lines, 39% in the terms of traffic facility, 36% growth in terms of the terminal works, which is the customer amenity work, 72% in signaling and telecom. So that's a huge, huge jump. So it is nowhere a conventional planning process that you're looking at, and that is what the opportunities get created. Opportunities, huge opportunities in construction, asset maintenance, terminal improvement works, rolling stock maintenance and manufacturing, and of course PMC services. I'll stop at this because it was just a brief snapshot. I can go on and on because each subject is a very, very elaborate subject, but considering the time constraint, I want to keep it short. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Well, that was very interesting, very helpful snapshot. Well, two things, if I could especially bring out. First of all, Mukul, he betrays his erudition and knowledge by looking as young as he does. Well, one of the most outstanding, brilliant officers. These people give you hope that we really look forward to see tomorrow which is bright and which helps us achieve 45%, 50% of national market. Now, he himself said the nature and quantum of national freight mass market keeps changing. Naturally, it's a dynamism. We were told if Indian economy grows at a rate of 6%, the basic yardstick that transport infrastructure does not lag behind has to be growing in the ratio of at least 1 to 1.2. That is the empirical evidence that we have learned. Now, if about more than 7% increase has to be there in the capacity for freight to be carried, and if railways are not able to do, naturally the gap will be filled by others and mostly by road, which is not in the national interest. Number two, the nature of the market itself. Not only the bulk commodities, which have been the traditional captive customers of railways, and there itself there is a question mark, even coal we are struggling to carry. The basic thing is that railways has to look at so-called other goods other than bulk goods, which essentially means integrated approach involving other modal partners, and as others are doing in terms of, for instance, US railways, bringing in shipping lines, truckload companies, and aggregators, integrators, etc., whether it is UPS, FedEx, DHL, etc. Now, we are told that 1,500 million tons of other goods traffic exists in the country. 1,500 million tons. Indian Railways carries not more than about 50, 60 million tons. And it has been worked out as a part of the National Rail Plan study that as much as 1,000 million tons of traffic obtains, which moves over 700 kilometers and more. So that is a huge opportunity, which we have to look at, and that means a different ball game altogether, because it needs different approach. It cannot be the business as usual. Well, there are many things which he thought we'll carry with us, and he is preparing the organization, as he said, in terms of a lot of money being spent on hardware as well as software. We wish him all the best, and we hope for the best. Thank you, Mukul. Well, I go back to Mr. Shantanu Bhadramkar, whom I request now to tell us about his doyen of industry. I can trace back my associate with him about 40, 50 years ago. So I have learned a hell of a lot from him and his colleagues. We request him to please share his thoughts with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Dayal. I think what he shared is right. One of the first conferences or sessions or conventions we had, he was the most eminent speaker. I think we saw, I'll be very quick because I know there is pressure of concluding this session quickly, and the next speakers are also ready. So I'll be crisp and give couple of points. One is we saw two new potentials emerging in what is conventional, what is traditional, I don't know. But I saw railway started moving cargo to Bangladesh, which is automobiles, from central India to Bangladesh. So that's a big thing. I also know that Bangladesh and garment buyers have great interest in bringing cargo from Bangladesh to India for shipment to Europe and other places. So new opportunities are emerging and emerging in a big way. But we can't call this a transformational change. What we were discussing in the break, Mr. Dayal, was reforms of 91 were game changer. Now here again we are looking for reforms that would be game changer, and for what we are looking for, we shared some ideas yesterday with National Shipping Board, and chairman of National Shipping Board is keen that we all come together and have a transformational change. One of the policies of the government is growth of multimodalism and supply chain resilience. So if we can focus on 2-3 important things across the modes, and the association I reply is Association of Multimodal Transport Operators, and in that our focus is seamless multimodal transport, not multimodal transport as aggregation of segmented transport put together and presented as multimodal just because there is one contract or one invoice. But it has to be very seamless, and for paucity of time, I won't give two examples, but if we have time at the end of the session, I will give that. What we are looking for right now in seamlessness is number one, interoperability of the modes, both digital and physical. Today we are talking lot about digital, but finally cargo has to move. We need bricks and mortars, not just digital world. One of the important game changer can be equivalent of Euro pallet. Now we can call it Indian pallet or we can call it international pallet. Euro pallet got limited to Europe because it is not compatible with international 20-feet container. If India and its G20 leadership, and we want to make a big impression, if we along with containerization and railways and other modes take a lead to have a equivalent of Euro pallet, which is pooled ownership and standardization of size that will fit a standard ocean container and use it like they use in Europe, it will be a game changer. And I know that countries like Japan, Korea, China would like to have that game changer. Now we can wait for China to do it or Japan to do it, or it's our turn as India to do it, be bold, take steps. And when we say Vishwaguru Bharat, what I expect is not global best practices. That's copycat. Global best practices are something people had conceived 20 years back, implemented 10 years back, and now they have moved to something else after picking over there. And that success we check today and start with a global best practice. I think this is one game changer I can put on table for railways, and that will also make our railways more international than it is today. With this, I think short but crisp suggestion, I give back the floor.
So thank you. It's very brief and very pointed one. I will refrain from taking away the time myself, but one point which is certainly worthy of mention is about the pallet. You see, Euro pallet was developed essentially, initiative was taken by British Rail, and I was part of a working group of the European Economic Community in 1984-85, I remember, when they started thinking in terms of developing the Euro pallet. But going a step further, India deserves a standard pallet to be developed for the Indian market. I am not worried about the international part of it, because India is huge, much bigger than the whole European community. And this will be a game changer, particularly in terms of interoperability by road and by rail and by any other means, including air. So some initiative has to be taken. Essentially, it will be done by RDS, etc., railways. But I think industry should come forward and look at the possibilities. Mr. Shantanu Bhai should be able to think in terms of taking the initiative from the Mumbai community. Well, I now hurriedly go.
Sir, just one comment, 10-second comment. BIS has done work, and probably we talk about the size has been standardized, but Euro pallet concept is not size. Size is a very small issue, it's pooled ownership, the interchange, these are all big concepts. I think that's what we should carry forward.
Quite right. Thank you. And now I have been warned by the organizers that we will be thrown out if we do not really close this session as quickly as we can. So my request to the colleagues in the panel is that please try to compress your presentation as much as you can. My request is to Mr. Manish Puri, President ACTO. He wears several hats. Again, I have known Mr. Manish Puri as a very dynamic, extremely forward-looking individual who has carved out a niche for himself, and we look forward to hearing him. Mr. Puri.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I had a presentation, but in the interest of time and in the interest of Mukul having taken away most of my thunder, I will not speak on the presentation. I'm sure Asocham can and share it with the participants. Just to begin, I represent a group of companies whose primary goal it is to increase containerization in India. I mean, that's not their goal. Their goal is to make money like all companies. But the only way that we can succeed is if containerization in India increases. Very briefly, for a long time, how we went about the process of trying to increase containerization has been through a laundry list of what needs to be done at the railway level, what's need to be done at the policy level, and a lot of that is already in the public domain. I don't want to go into it. I just want to touch upon three things. So fundamentally, the first issue, which also Mukul brought out, if we need to go to 3,000 million tons, conventional cargo growth is not going to be able to help us achieve that. Even if we grow in the conventional space at 7 to 8%, we're going to get stuck at 2,300 million tons. That incremental business has to come from unconventional or goods which are today not being carried on rail. A very key aspect of those goods is that these are not heavy goods. These are volumetric, these are lightweight goods, these are manufactured goods. The way to bring them onto rail essentially is through the container of some kind. It doesn't have to be an ISO container, but it has to be through a multimodal means, because these goods are today moving end to end. These goods today require transit sensitivity, and these goods today require a certain assurance in terms of service quality, which brings me to what needs to be done. The same three things. Capacity has to be increased on the railway system. The railways is doing a lot of stuff about it, and I'm not saying that that is not required. Of course it is required, but maybe more is required, and we need to focus on increasing capacity to target this business. So capacity, one, both at the terminal level as well as the track level. Here I would say that at the terminal level, the focus needs to be on bringing in more private participation. I know that there is a lot of funds which have been allocated, and that's a good thing, but all those funds can be utilized better if we were using those to increase track capacity and letting the private sector in on terminal capacity enhancement with the right policy frameworks. Today, and I'm sorry to say this, but today the focus on how the railway policy is functioning is still about vacating a certain amount of space. It's still very regulatory in its approach. It's still about looking at industry with a certain degree of suspicion, to use a strong word. And I think we need to change that mindset. Similarly, when we talk about improving the cost, improving capacity will improve cost. But for the end user, it is not cost, it is price paid for service that is critical. Today's pricing mechanism on the railways favors heavy cargo. It does not work in favor of light cargo. Unless we are able to look at pricing for light cargo and looking at the cost benefit which accrues to the railway system and transferring it into a different pricing mechanism, I think that's a thought we need to look at. As an association, we've been talking to the railways of actually switching, at least for multimodal, away from charging per box, charging per slab, charging in a very complicated manner, and moving to a rake-based system. You let the trade figure out how they're going to load a train. You let us figure out how many heavy containers, how many light containers, all of that. Simply charge us for a train load. And I think those kind of radical ideas need to be looked at, because tweaking existing ideas will get us from 1,500 to 1,600 to 1,700. It's not going to get us to 3,000. That's the second issue. So I think pricing, again, when we talk about the end-to-end product, which is something which has been recognized, and we do appreciate that India Post has been brought in and a new product has been brought in, but the kind of nimbleness, the kind of agility that is required to deliver that product, I'm sorry to say, is not something that the public sector is capable of providing. So we need to look at how do we create partnerships with third-party logistics providers to be able to bring this end-to-end product onto the rail platform. Two large bureaucratic organizations will come up with a very good policy, but I have a little bit of suspicion whether we'll be able to actually see this into realization. And there's one final point. Again, when we are talking about increasing investment in wagons, this is something which the National Rail Plan also says, and I was fortunate to be part of the team which drafted that document. Investment in wagons ideally should come from the private sector for two reasons. One, the investment capability exists in the private sector. Two, once a private sector entity has invested in a wagon, it is married to the Indian Railways for 30 years to carry freight. That's how you lock in a customer. By buying more wagons and then saying that we are going to do better service and blah, blah, blah is not going to cut it. You have to get the end user staked into the system by making him buy the wagons. There is a willingness, there is a capability, but then the Indian Railways has to back off from that space and encourage more private ownership of wagons. That's a few thoughts that I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Manish. That was very interesting. I go straight to Mr. Anurag Garg. He's Vice President Logistics TMIL. Mr. Garg.
Yeah, good afternoon to all. I'll just make it a very short presentation in interest of time, like all my colleagues have been doing here. We are a subsidiary of Tata Steel with shareholders from Germany and NYK Shipping Lines. We are into multitude of business just like many logistics companies in this country. And the latest vertical is in railways, which we started in 2017. So we operate under the SFTO and GPWS policies of Government of India. And we have been in existence for last 20 years, have a healthy balance sheet in our these two policies which we have leveraged for growth. They have taken their own time in making, and this final version came out in 2014. And it's really a good policy where you can invest in wagons, very specific wagons, and you get discount again to investment, a flat discount, 12% year for each trip. And then the rake returns empty, and when it returns empty, there is no freight charge. So this is what probably distinguishes this from a container operations. At any given time for steel, for example, we can carry something like 4,000 tons of steel maximum. And we have seen, and this rebate is applicable for 20 years. Typically, the users in this space are steel and aluminum and cement companies. The maintenance is free of cost, the statutory maintenance. Of course, there is some other small maintenance you have to bear the cost. GPWS policy stands for General Purpose Wagon Investment. This is essentially floated in 2018 because in 2017-18 there was a rake crisis and steel and cement industries were just not getting rakes. So here also you cannot handle any cargo in GPWS policy. It is cargo specific, but in general purpose rake like box NHL, BOBSN or whatever it is. You get a 10% rebate on freight, which looks attractive, but it is balanced by the fact that the rebate is capped. And the capping say is around, for a box NHL is around 2 crore or so per year. There is also a non-rebate cap option, but that is like a EMI payment, you make earlier payment. So in SFTO, while you get a freight of 12% rebate on freight each year, each trip, that is not the case in GPWS, where you essentially get a 10% rebate on a trip. And once that 10% once that rebate cap is reached in that operating year, you pay the full freight. Maintenance, again, there are extra charges. So GPWS policy, purely from economics viewpoint, proves to be more expensive than SFTO. Although this is an apple and orange comparison. Both operate in different market, and we'll see how. This is just to show that with support of Indian Railway, how we have grown over the years. We handle something like this year we will close with 2 million tons of cargo and SFTO, and we have about 17 to 18 rakes at the time of closure.
For GPWIS, we will close the year with about 10 million tons of cargo moved, coal, flux, and close to 16 rakes. The difference, if you see, and on the left axis, kindly read it as 2 million, 4 million, and not 0.2. The difference is that SFTO is for steel, long haul. So it maybe you do 2 trips a month or 3 trips a month. GPW's rakes are essentially short haul, port to plant, mines to plant. Each trip can do 20, 30 iterations in a month. So that is where the scale of cargo comes in GPWIS. And we are further scaling up. So by end of in next 2-3 years, we'll end up something like 60, 65 such rakes. What we have learned, and this is what I would like to share with the august audience, is that SFTO and LSFTO schemes are good, but so far the user base is only cement and steel. Alumina companies use it for a very specific purpose of moving bulk alumina. But besides that, there is not much traction. Although policy is very wide, it covers everything from edible oil, LPG, molasses, you name it, it is there. But so far, maximum traction has been seen by these two sectors. It is also not a surprise because these two sectors are very logistics intensive also. GPWIS rake, again, the biggest users are steel and cement companies. Then there are some private ports who are directly, they have their own rakes for movement of bulk cargo. Like I said earlier, GPWIS rakes is short haul. SFTO tends to be long haul, but there is no hard and fast rule here. And maintenance costs in SFTO is free of cost, whereas in this you have to pay. One observation we have seen in last 3-4 years of operation with these box and HL private rakes is that whenever there is a manual unloading, the wagons get damaged. And of course, there is a repair and maintenance cost to be borne for each wagon damage. But I think one of the ways to ensure the higher tonnage is to have a faster rake turnaround, which would means asking customers to start mechanizing to the large extent possible, because these manual unloadings may be done in a free time, but it will definitely damage the rake. And so while in private sector we are whenever such unloading going on, we are always there to monitor. In railway, there may not be a local guy monitoring it, and the wagon actually gets damaged, and then repair costs are incurred. Wagons are out of circulation, reducing the overall capacity. And when we started SFTO, there were learning involved for us for railways also. Let's say our rake will go from Jamshedpur to Chennai. On the return, it will be diverted to Visakhapatnam steel plant, because it is apparently steel rake. The railway system doesn't know. Only our GPS will tell us that okay, it is diverted to somewhere else. But all those issues are behind us. But this has been a learning all these years. Our suggestion, sir, for increasing the cargo is that GPWIS policy needs to be more attractive or line with the high wagon prices. For example, sir, IR rake wagon box NHL costs 36-37 lakhs today. Whereas our private same wagon, same design is 44 lakhs. But our rebates are all linked to the railway wagons. So this is a commercial issue. Now there is another issue of GPWIS and SFTO spares which are parked. This is actually assets lying idle. So it is our request that these spares can be utilized by railways or allowed to be or utilized by private players, so that you know, for if I have 50 rakes, I have something like 140, 150 spare wagons just idling everywhere in the system. So and other part is for various new designs, kindly look at 25-ton axle load from day one. Current designs of lot of SFTO rakes are 22.9. To upgrade them to 25-ton will require a lot of testing and approvals. So in the end, I would like to say that my suggestions are more on the incremental side, so as to increase the cargo, and I hope railways take care of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Garg. That was brief and succinct, very well. May I now request Mr. Animesh Gupta. He is President and Chief Logistics Officer of Jindal Steel and Power. I think he'll carry on from what he has left earlier in the introductory session. Mr.
So good afternoon once again. In the morning session, I had highlighted a few points in front of the August gathering over here. We at Jindal Steel and Power, we are one of the major users in the steel industry, wherein freight by rail is up to 90% desirable, but due to a lot of challenges, we are up to only 65% as of now. So these points I had already said. So majorly, what we need to understand is whatever movement of freight, movement of cargo on rail has happened in the year 21-22. What is the percentage, as I was talking in the morning session also? Coal is majorly being used, and it forms about 45% of the total share. And iron ore, which in one of the presentations, our officer from the railway, I'm sorry, I did not remember his name, he had mentioned it only 2% in the iron ore. Now it is 17% overall if we see there. Now we need to understand in the steel industry, which I am representing on this forum, major material movement is not coal for us, because we are in the area where coal is abundant, and the first mile is normally by road, and that is being taken care of. What we need to understand, iron ore, because it is in areas, the mines are in such areas where the mode of transport from the mine to the terminal, or what you call as the sidings, is road, but from there to the destination, the manufacturing units, it is mostly by the rail. And iron ore typically is moved in a similar box, which we all understand, which is primarily being used for the coal. So we have continuous shortage of such boxes, which makes it a very big challenge for us. We are augmenting that with slurry pipeline, which we are coming up. But till the time, and to mention it very important here, we, Jindal Steel and Power being a bigger entity, bigger business organization, we can afford slurry pipeline, but not the smaller manufacturing units. They require rakes, and they require these box and rakes. And thanks to TMIL, they are doing it for a lot of people, a lot of their customers. But ultimately, most of the fraternity in the steel manufacturing industry, they require Indian Rail rakes only. Mr. Agarwal did mention about a lot of things which they are giving it to their customers, but ultimately everyone cannot invest in the GPWIS box ends or in the SFTOs where it is a flatbed rake for our finished goods. Everyone is investing, but the time to manufacture them and put it on rail is little large. So we have couple of partners over here who are manufacturing them, and they are giving it. Then the challenge are what we are facing as of now. The wheels are not there. So wheels are coming from outside India. So the rake is ready, but the wheels are not there. So that is also one of the major challenges. Make in India, made in India, whatever we may say, but ultimately we need things to happen. So in my first session, I was talking about the stick, the measurement. At the end of the day, in all the business organizations, the representatives are here, the owners are here. We understand we have to make money, and for money we need to measure, and for measurement we need to monitor, and for monitoring we need help from our logistic partner, which is Indian Railways. Because I won't say there is a lot of bureaucracy, but yes, they do understand when we interact with them, they do understand what are our challenges, but they have their own constraints. So they have to, I take this forum to highlight that they need to actually put our word inside their management. So they do understand, they talk, कि हाँ साहब हम कर सकते हैं, हमें करना चाहिए, पर वो होता नहीं है. So there is a gap between the sip and the lip that has to be bridged out. So JSPL, as as I was talking, so we will be moving from 9.3 million metric ton to 37.7, which is about 390% growth in 2030, about 400%, which is a major challenge for me as the chief of logistics with the company. Either take help from the railways or do something different. That delta cannot be given by Indian Railways, which we understand clearly, because in 2030, if they are going to do that, what will happen from 2023 to 2030? So we need to think out of the box. Probably we are trying we try to do a lot of things in the coastal waters, but then my first mile again goes to the ship, to the port. We need to have use the coastal waters, which is again in one of the policy of the Prime Minister office. So we are doing that, but again we will be using these rakes there. So that's the expansion plan. Again, I have been told to be quickly wrapping it up. So now major reasons behind the rail participation, where I had mentioned again in the morning, the speed which is there, which needs to be actually taken care of. So in a section of we have two cases to highlight here. In these two sections, one is the Angul-Sukinda new line. There is a challenge. It's there, and it has already been discussed with the Indian Railway officials. So these things, they need to be taken care of as soon as possible. It is not going to impact directly me. It is going to impact the Indian Railways, increasing their speed from 15, 16 as per East Coast Railway, which tells us it is going to be increased to maybe about 20, 23, 24 if these small sections are being made. So there is one more section which is very important for anyone and everyone in that area, Eastern India, which is Orissa, Jharkhand area. So this section, if you see the red lines there, these are very small sections, very small sections. These needs to be completed as soon as possible. And probably not only us, anyone and everyone in railway also, they are going to probably achieve almost 15 to 17% from this augmentation. If they clear these bottlenecks, probably we will be there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Sorry, now Mr. Nitin Jain. First of all, he represents Resurgent India, and we could not be ending it with a more pleasant note than being resurgent part of India. And I'm glad that you have the privilege of scoring 25 in the last ball, because the floodlights have been switched on at Arun Jaitley Stadium, and it's up to you to please finish as early as you can, score 25 last over.
Thank you very much, Mr. And, being last one, I'm looking to those questions possible. So one good thing is that I don't really come from technical background, so I don't really have much to say in today. But I can say we worked with a lot of startups or logistics. And you're already aware a couple of startups are already on the space. But what we have observed when they are providing solutions to the customer, that the customer doesn't really include railways. Or if it does include, very small part of it is part of the business. The challenge is, I think, a couple of people already mentioned this, that the railway is kind of not really active in the non-conventional goods. And many of the logistic companies that we are operating or who are operating in more startup environment are focused on the non-conventional goods. So there is a great opportunity. There is a certain kind of synchronization that can be increased fast, so that this large market can be captured by the place, and both again the startups and the vehicles can work together to develop the whole ecosystem. So I think the whole scale wonderful level. So one initiative which I observed recently is the Unified Logistics Interface Platform. That one thing that is getting of any other private logistic provider get some integration into the database freight operations. I would say it's maybe it's at a very initial stage at the moment, but that's actually a very expansion scope to develop a partnership, and the target that we are setting for 2030 can really be make us this kind of integration really help to achieve the target. So, we are seeing a lot of technology advancement happening in the startup phase. A lot of private players really coming to a lot of technology. They may not be straight away investing in a lot of infrastructure, building a lot of fixes, but they have a lot of technology advantage. And if the railway comes forward and kind of bring that partnership with the startups and approach, I think over years on you can see great how private partnership will be there, and that will be visible from the top. And that ultimately I think can help to solve a lot of challenges with the railway system. So that will be my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Friends, I would have very much appreciated if we had the opportunity to listen to some of you and ask questions. Unfortunately, we don't have time, and time is always short. And well, with this, it's my privilege that I had this opportunity to be associated with this program and learn at this platform from my wonderful colleagues who, with their erudite knowledge and experience, have shared their thoughts. There are a lot of takeaways, and principally, if I may just say, I seek your indulgence for 1 minute, that this is an age when it is possible for us to be thinking in terms of new India we've been talking about, and which means we have to really unlearn hell of a lot and relearn from the rest of the world, learn ourselves from our own past experiences, which is rich, and move forward. Basically, railways cannot afford to be only investing and investing. They have to optimize the use of resources, human and material. Tremendous amount of opportunity. They cannot keep on adding to their numbers. They are already adding this year 1.35 lakhs of people to already bloated workforce. Essentially, railways has to reduce the freight cost price. It is far too low, and they cannot possibly be casting the burden from the passenger, etc., to freight, which is counterproductive. It hurts the overall interest of the economy. They have to learn that there is a lot to learn from the industry, from the customer, and adapt the services. This is the main takeaway, which means moving out of the trajectory of bureaucratic structure and mindset and think in terms of customer-centric commercial values. And as Mr. Puri said, that falling costs, they determine the today physical geography matters less and less. Economic geography matters more and more. So we have to make sure that we become active partners in this changing scene, which requires that LDHV, low density, high value cargo, has to be brought in addition to the bulk commodities. Number two,
sir,
that it has to be integrated.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. We are running very, very late.
In terms of half a second, let me exercise my presidential privilege. The basic thing is it has to be single point of contact for industry. That means one contract, one rate, integrated, end-to-end service, one point of communication. And I think Prime Minister has been talking in terms of integrated approach. He unveiled the logistics policy. We know everything. Mr. Mukul Charan has devised National Rail Plan. Everything is known. The question is that we must be able to implement the good part of it, which we are all aware of. Thank you very much, and I'm grateful to my worthy colleagues. Thank you.
I will request all our speakers on stage to please quickly gather for a group photograph, and a round of applause for all our speakers on stage. We are running very short of time, so we are going to merge our subsequent sessions into one. And I would again make a request to the speakers to keep their presentations short. We need to wrap up on time, and we are running very, very late. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. So our next session is on technology and design for commodity transportation. And we will have a very special presentation on Vivad Se Vishwas as well. So I would request our speakers for the next session to please come up on stage. Please put your hands together and welcome on stage Shri Shajal Gupta, President, Monet International, who will be the moderator for this session. A round of applause for Mr. Gupta, please. We also have a special presentation on Vivad Se Vishwas 2 on contractual dispute scheme by Shri Kamalpreet, Director, Procurement Policy Division, Ministry of Finance. Please also welcome on stage Shri R.K. Mangla, Additional Member, PU, Ministry of Railways, who will be giving. Okay, Shri Nanduri Srinivas, Director, Operations, DFCCIL, is also going to be speaking in a keynote address in this session. Please also welcome our other speakers for this session. Give them a round of applause. Shri Surendra Khare, Chief Technical Advisor, Jindal Rail Infrastructure Limited. Shri Harsh Dhingra, Management Consultant, Rail and Metro, former Chief Country Representative, Bombardier Transportation. Shri Rajiv Bhaskar, COO, Rail Logistics, IVC Logistics Limited. And Shri V.N. Singh, Director, Fultas Transrail Limited. So we'll begin this session with a very special presentation on Vivad Se Vishwas 2, contractual disputes. So please put your hands together and welcome Shri Kamalpreet, Director, Procurement Policy Division, Ministry of Finance.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll keep my presentation very short. First of all, I'd like to thank ASSOCHAM for inviting me and giving this opportunity to interact with the industry and share the new Vivad Se Vishwas 2 scheme which was launched in the budget. I'll immediately go over to my presentation. Yeah. So essentially the constraints which we want to address through this scheme is that there is a liquidity constraint in our economy. The amount of investment which is required in infrastructure is essentially very large, and it is believed that the disputes, court or in arbitration, they are holding up a lot of capital, and which needs to be freed up for that capital to be invested in infrastructure. Of course, there is also an understanding that challenging the awards has actually been costly to the government, and both blocked capital and litigation is actually adverse to ease of doing business. Now, para 67 of the budget is essentially what the scheme talks about. I'll not read out the para. What we have already done at Ministry of Finances, we have the instruction of giving 75% of award amount in case anybody wants to challenge the award before a higher court. He has to give that 75% amount upfront to the contractor against a bank guarantee. This rule is already there since 2021. In fact, it is there since 2016, but it's been more formalized since October 21. And of course, there are general instructions which say that whenever there is a decision by the ministry to challenge an award, that decision has to be through a committee, and the procuring entity has to first take a commercial decision whether challenging the award is in financial benefit. It need not be merely for seeking justice. It has to be a commercially viable decision. Now, what this particular scheme talks about, this is as of now a draft scheme which is under stakeholder consultation, and the reason why I stand here is I want to request all of you to go through the draft scheme and send in your suggestions. In the end, I'll tell you where you can see the document and give in your suggestions, and I believe, and I strongly believe, that this particular scheme impacts all of us. The applicability of the scheme is that one of the parties to the dispute has to be Government of India or its listed entities. It could be subordinate bodies, it could be CPSCs, it could be union territories, NCTs, it could be public sector banks or financial institutions. We, as of now, the bodies which have 50%, where Government of India has 50% shareholding, it is optional for those bodies to opt into the scheme. The scheme will apply only if one of the parties to the dispute, I mean, one of the two parties is the Government of India. In case state governments or any private entity is the party along with the government, I mean, if let's say Government of India is a respondent and one of the responding party is a state government or a private entity, then the scheme will not apply. The scheme applies if the respondent as a whole is a Government of India entity, and the disputes only where there are financial claims are liable to be brought under the scheme. Again, I must emphasize this is what is the draft. If you do not agree or you have certain suggestions, you are most welcome to give in your suggestions. The dates which have been, the cutoff dates is that the claim should have been submitted either to the arbitrator or to the court or any litigation before 30th of September 2022, and the counterclaim, if any, by the government should have been filed by 31st of December 2022. CPSEs are also eligible, but I mean CPSE having a dispute with Government of India, the CPSE also as a contractor is eligible to use the scheme. Now what the scheme talks about is that in case a court order is passed, any court order, and the Government of India wants to challenge it in the higher court, the scheme says that Government of India will accept the award, 80% of the amount which is net amount payable against net amount payable as per the award, 80% would be paid and the government would sign a settlement agreement. So no more dispute. Essentially, the intention is to end litigation, to bring finality to the litigation. The second level would be that arbitral award has been passed, then 60% would be paid up. If there is the first stage of ongoing litigation, either in conciliation or in arbitration or in the court, if it is the first stage and there has been no award as of date, then in case the contract has been closed, 30% of the claim would be paid up. If the contract has not been closed, then 20% of the claim would be paid up. I mean, these are going to be mandatory to the Government of India to agree to the settlement in case the contractor approaches. Now, submission of claims against this particular scheme would be through a portal which would be developed by Government e-Marketplace. The contractor would have, it is a voluntary scheme in which the voluntary part is only with the contractor. If the contractor chooses to bring his particular dispute to the scheme, he will have to log on to the GEM portal, register with the portal and submit his claim. The GEM portal will also interact with the government nodal officer of each of the ministries or each of the organizations which are eligible to participate in the scheme, and he will be responsible for updating the information with regard to the claim, the counterclaims if any, and check and verify about the award of the court or the arbitrator or the conciliation. Conciliation, there will be no award anyway, about the award of the arbitrator or the court. Once the claim or the settlement scheme has been verified, not the scheme, the claim has been verified by the nodal officer, the computer system itself would evaluate the settlement amount, and what we have also drafted is a settlement agreement, which is also part of the conciliation process, is part of the scheme, on which you can again comment, and that would be digitally signed contract. It would be a digitally signed settlement agreement under the conciliation process of the Arbitration Act, and that would be binding on both the parties. So that would essentially end all the pending litigation for that particular dispute. It is also intended that the disputes under a particular contract would be compounded. So all the disputes and all the claims under a particular contract would be compounded into a single claim balancing process. Now, if the contractor agrees to the settlement terms and the settlement amount, a settlement agreement would be signed by the parties. And if he doesn't agree, the settlement, the dispute litigation can continue. Of course, what it means is that if the claim plus counterclaim, this is as of now again something which is a draft and it is under stakeholder consultation. If claim plus counterclaim is 500 crores, beyond that limit, the procuring entity would have an option not to accept the scheme. But below this limit, it has been proposed that it would be mandatory on the Government of India entities to accept the settlement amount which is calculated by the system. So this is, I think, all I would have. Yes, the current status is that we are seeking comments on the scheme till 8th of March, and this scheme is available on Department of Expenditure's website, doe.gov.in. I would strongly request that all of you please go through the scheme and give in your valuable information, inputs, because once the scheme is out, then, I mean, changing the scheme would be very difficult. And I think it's a good opportunity to settle the litigations and proceed with the infrastructure investment. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that very interesting address, Mr. Kanwal. Most of the industry at times they feel that the contractual litigations, contractual non-clarity creates strife. So at least the Government of India taking such policy measures to come out with defining certain provisions which go along with confidence. Now, I've been given a responsibility which is very difficult to discharge because the lunch time is approaching and then there is a managing committee. I have an eminent panel of speakers, but I would request the co-panelists to kindly be brief and introduce themselves. The names are there. They're all veterans from the industry and from the railways. So I think we'll cut short that part and we will straight away go to the brief presentation of the points they would like to make. So I will straight away go to the keynote person, Mr. Nanduri Srinivas, Director Operations at DFCCIL. Mr. Mangala, Additional Member, PU Ministry of Railways, has been called for there was some accident yesterday and he was busy in those deliberations at Railway Board. So he has conveyed his best wishes to the program and he would definitely attend the next time and he will miss this time. So Mr. Nanduri, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. With the express intent to be brief, I stand before you to say that many of the items which have been presented by the erstwhile speakers and including the chairman, that Indian Railways has always been on the forefront as far as capacity constraints and lack of delivery systems and customer lack of orientation towards the customer grievances and all that. We have been created in one way to take care of many of these issues. I'll just go through this presentation. This is in a nutshell fourth largest system, but still we look at 44th in terms of logistics performance index. Now, what exactly has been given for DFC is the modal share to be increased. So all of you are aware that 45% we are aiming and all that. We are mostly looking at focused approach for freight. These are the two symbolic representations of the freight corridors which are now under making. Everybody say that yes, DFC has been one project in the making for quite some time, the delays and all that. Let me confess that we have started real work only from 2014-15 because 2006 conceptualization, but land acquisition and other problems which got plagued. And after that, when we were in the finishing stages, the 2 years of pandemic in the crucial working seasons has put us back, but now we are seeing the end of the tunnel. We are now almost finishing our project and we hope to finish 95% by end of 23. Some significant features where we are looking at the salient features of dimensions. We have the USP of faster, longer, heavier trains, which will be increasing the throughput in a safe environment. Basically, the moving dimensions will be higher. We have the standard dimensions. Another feature which we have done, in fact, one of the points which people have been asking is how do we carry this? This is one of the features which we have done. The sustainable thing which we have done is reducing the carbon footprint. Only with this feature which we have run for 1 year, we have reduced the carbon dioxide emissions by about 3.06 million tons. This is one feature of our door-to-door delivery service which we have intended. Now this is utilization, how we have done it, and of course completion of this. Some of the salient features, of course, I have just put it to just illustrate the humongous nature of the project. You can just see that we have done land acquisition to the extent of about 10,000 hectares. Earthwork is about 2,371 lakh cubic meters. Major emphasis has been on the ROBs and RUBs, road over bridges and road under bridges, which have come to about 850 plus. That has given us the edge over all other systems where a focused and unhindered access to the freight train has been made possible. With that, I'll just say that 61% of the project has been completed right now, and we are looking at completing the project by December 23, except a small patch near Mumbai, which will go to the next year. This is, of course, commissioning over the years. Now, what I wanted to show you is this operational efficiency. If you look at this, we have already run about 75,000 trains on our systems. We are now running almost the speeds which we are registering will dispel the myths associated with the freight trains movement in India. Freight train, Malgadi, which we always take in the negative connotation, has been dispelled, and now we see the freight trains reaching faster. That speed is reflected in some of the things, like I would like to go to, I think I'm going somewhere back. Yes. Some of the powerhouse rakes which are going, that is the coal rakes which are moving to the powerhouses. Let me confess, I was earlier in the power industry. It used to take 4 days to get the coal rake from Bihar area to Dadri. Now it is coming in 2 days. All because we are now able to move faster on DFC with partial commissioning itself. By March end, we will be having the total connectivity from Mughalsarai end towards Dadri. We will find that the rakes will be moving within 18 hours. So that reality, now the real speed which we have been moving is about 55 and to 60, 63 for in our jurisdiction, these powerhouse rakes. Then the entire movement happens on DFC. The average speeds of the powerhouse rakes is going to be 65. I will also just remind you that last year the newspapers have carried a lot of articles about NCR getting plunged into darkness because coal stocks have plummeted in Dadri and other upcountry powerhouses, which did not happen, all because we have been moving on DFC, and DFC has risen to the occasion by moving those things, and Indian Railways and DFC have moved those rakes at faster pace. The real test is how we have made it, and I will only say that now this proves that just in time has already been brought into reality, not remained as a cliche as far as DFC is concerned. I can share with you some of the powerhouses now are getting out of that mandated CES mandate of 21 days power stock, and this is one occasion where I think many of the firms associated or aligned on DFC alignment can think of reducing their stocks, mandatory stocks, and then releasing that operational capital, dead capital for their better uses. That will be one major advantage. Of course, these are all, we are now looking at providing more terminals, as Manish Puri has already mentioned, the terminals are required. So we are offering, and now what he said is, yes, we are believing that there is private participation. Through private participation only, investment only, this thing can come. Already we have successfully launched one Gati Shakti cargo terminal at New Rewadi. Entire investment is coming from the private participation only. We are just giving the platform. DFC will work as the platform on which the entire operational as well as commercial orientation will go ahead. one of the price parities or price adjustments will happen, we are coming out with a revised tariff policy wherein it will be on the basis of the costing rather than what we can charge. So that is going to be the model for DFC traffic. Yeah, finishing in another half a minute. No, I am just finishing that. It is the end. So I have only one thing to say, that we have been doing that operational efficiencies and some of the things that we are doing. Most of the things, capacity and all, we have already been fulfilling. We have provided the capacity constraint solution for India to reach up to 7.5 to 10 trillion economy, because the number of trains which we can run is much higher, and the operational efficiency with which we run will be able to take care of the capacity and the speed. So major business development activities which we are undertaking are all going to address the items which have been raised by people in various fora and in the present sessions also. So I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, a very, very good afternoon to everyone. I am so sorry to interrupt at this, juncture, because we have another important meeting, that is a board meeting of ASSOCHAM in this very hall, and some, major changes are required in the setup. So for that, we have some time constraint, and so for this, I'll request the moderator, Mr. Sajal Gupta, to kindly, if we can have the format in a panel discussion, rather than having individual presentations, and any presentation, if any speaker has, we can circulate it to all the members. So my kind request to each and every eminent panel of this session, please kindly maintain, so we can close in 10 to 15 minutes, sir.
We will
thank you
try
so much.
to-
Thank you.
We will try to adhere to your request, Mr. Rajora. Although my co-panelists are saying there is perhaps enough time only to have a group photograph. But we'll try to hurry up. So I think Mr. Nanduri Srinivas had made a very relevant and very interesting discussion and the comments. In fact, the dedicated freight corridor are the mainstay of the logistics policy, in the sense the theme of the current discussion conference today is 27 to 45% by 2030, and Indian Railways is trying to gear up to even achieve it much earlier. Now this is in contrast to the roadway share, which is 60% of the movement. So from 27 to 45 by 2030, and with the kind of energy that the industry and the railways in terms of policy making is trying to share, I think this is very energizing, and we had a gifted a bevy of speakers before us. So all the facts and figures are with you. Most of you, I am sure, have gone through the National Rail Plan. Those who have not, it is very interesting to go through maybe in bits and pieces, if not 1 hour at one go. So kindly go through the National Rail Plan. It is the shape of the things to come in terms of a background. Now, lots of policy measures are due. Some already have taken, and some are in the consultative mechanism, like Mr. Kamal Singh has mentioned. In terms of the ease of doing business, those are being implemented. DFC construction is one mainstay, and we had a very gifted presentation in terms of the achievements that have been going on the ground. Of course, the naysayers are always there, but let's celebrate the positivities that are happening. Higher throughput per meter per train, that is by running heavy haul trains with 13,000 kilometer load, using 12,000 HP high powered and high speed loco and the longer trains. So that is again another mainstay. There is a lot of the rolling stock procurement programs happening simultaneously. 12,000 HP one letter is currently going on. 9,000 HP is a record price discovery was recently achieved, and the record I think 80,000 wagons for the 3-year consumption was already awarded in a very efficient manner. The new wagon policy is also a very right step in that direction. There is, I am told, a new tender which is in the working, wherein the private sector operation will also get fructified, as Mr. Puri had pointed out. The government should try to restrict itself and let the new wagon policy come out and the private sector to take a bigger lead into that. So I hope that fructifies in the coming years. Lower energy consumption, reducing O&M costs, reduction in the transit time, which will happen only with the better usage of rolling stock, and will bring down the transportation cost, which will result into switching from the roadways to the railways board, which is the basic theme of the 45% the benchmark that has been there. Capacity enhancement, before it is required, it needs to be there. And I think in terms of track and terminal, as the gifted speakers have mentioned, though it is being implemented, and it needs to be fastened up in any case. Tariff rationalization, tariff incentivization schemes, those are all, I think our previous speakers have spoken about it. Now, at this stage, I would like to specifically ask one of my co-panelists to mention about the new and high efficiency wagons. So I have with me Mr. Rajiv Bhaskar, CEO of Rail Logistics of IVC Logistics Limited, who have invested into that. So kindly briefly introduce yourself and please go ahead for a brief presentation.
Hi, I'm Rajiv Bhaskar. I represent IVC Logistics. We are primarily an AFTO operator. And yes, I think our management had already foreseen what was coming, and we switched over in 2018 from road to rail in a big way. Our organization was having about 1400 plus fleet of car carriers across the country, and we have already started investing from road to rail, wherein we have stopped investing in the road sector and started investing in railways in a big way. We already have about 5 rakes of our own. But going forward, as my earlier speakers in the couple of sessions, Mr. Kalsi and Mr. Puri pointed out, yes, there are a few grey areas here, and railways need to target low density and high volume cargo, low density and high value cargo. So going by that, we already had envisaged that the automobile sector per se is growing at a fast pace, and demand for SUVs are really increasing. So present setup and present wagons that are already there in the sector are not catering to carrying of SUVs on both decks. The BCACBM design actually allows carriage of SUVs on one deck and small cars on the upper deck. And increasingly we are facing the shortage of small cars production. So looking at that, we decided to invest in a new indigenous design of wagons, which is now is a reality, and is known as BCA TIC wagon, which is actually a taller wagon compared to the wagon that already is running on the Indian Railway circuit, and it allows loading of double decks, both SUV cars on both the double decks. So now that wagon is already on the oscillation completion, and we look forward to get the induction of this wagon into the Indian Railway wagon pool by the end of March 31st, 2023. Yes, having said that, we have a couple of challenges ahead of us, which is, as we all discussed, that Indian Railways need to augment the capacity. And as also, we are looking Indian Railways to provide us a network where this taller design wagon can run. As Mr. Kalsi pointed out in the first session, that there are very few sectors we need to target. So we've already given a request to Railway Board to allow us and approve the wagon running routes, specifically on the target routes of 2 to 3 initially. But going forward, matching from north to south and south to north and west would be a key challenge here. So we are looking forward to support from railways on that account. But yes, this wagon is a reality, and the industry and OEMs are eagerly awaiting rolling out of this wagon. We hope this really meets the needs of the industry. That's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rajiv. I have Mr. Harsh Dhingra, who has been the chief representative of Bombardier and part of the management board. He is currently a management consultant, Rail and Metro. Harsh, what do you see? How do you see the industry's contribution towards our theme of today's conference? What are the things which are happening, and where do you think the bottlenecks, and where do you want the industry or the government to take steps which helps us to achieve this 45%?
Since morning, we have been listening about two numbers, 45% by 2030 and 3 billion by 27 or 30. Is it achievable? Yes, partially achievable. Is government on the right track of creating that kind of infrastructure? Yes, they are doing it. But this is a vision vision can be achieved directly with the contribution from the Indian Railways and also from the industry. And why I'm saying so is that in case we want to have such a highly ambitious vision and want to achieve it, and this kind of a freight loading which is required to be done in order to meet the GDP growth of India, there are certain new things which are required to be done. So conventional way of looking at increasing the freight transportation is not the only solution. So we have to look for innovating ideas on how it can be done. So here I will give you some example because I am also associated with a startup which is creating a new technology for taking out the freights from the ports. And I will just give you some example of JNPT, just 2-3 minutes I will take, of JNPT. Today JNPT has a capacity of 5 million ton TEU. And they have to increase the capacity by 8% every year. They have to reach almost 30 million by 2050, or I would say almost 12 million by 2030. Can they achieve it? Currently looking at JNPT, where it is located in the center of Mumbai, with almost 16% of the load of the traffic which is through rail and 84% which is coming from road, it is not possible to do that. Do the JNPT has a capacity to increase within the premises they are having? No, they do not have. So how to achieve these numbers? How to achieve these figures? Mr. Srinivas just now mentioned that JNPT also will be attached to DFC by 2023 or 24. But with that also 16% freight which is in JNPT, that can go only 24%. But the way of growth which is happening at JNPT, you can see at Mumbai, almost 6,500 trucks per day are required today. In case they have to in case they have to double the capacity, almost 13,000 trucks are required. Do they have a capacity to have that much road width available to create that kind of a truck movements there? No, it is not there. So we have to have some kind of innovative ideas where we can improve the velocity of evacuation of those ports. The topic which I am addressing here is the automated ports, which we call it automated cargo evacuation system, which is nothing but a self-propelled car, self-propelled vehicle, where the complete container can be loaded and it can be taken to a hinterland, which is Bhiwadi, which is about 70 kilometers away. And there all the custom clearances can be done. You don't have to keep the wagons at the port and wait for the train. Today train takes almost 7 to 8 hours for loading and unloading, and that too from point to point. And we have multi-destination wagons which are available. So this can be addressed through this innovative technology which I am introducing here. And it only requires two things: right of way from movement of the pods from Mumbai JNPT to Bhiwadi, and the advantage that goes along with the investment that is required to be created in the infrastructure there. So that is one idea which we are thinking is possible, not only in JNPT, but also in other ports like Chennai and Calcutta, where, as I mentioned earlier, conventional methods of increasing the capacity is not possible. We have to look at a new innovative way of introducing that. In the earlier session from Resurgent India, gentleman was talking about supporting a startup on this. So this is an innovative idea where we can do these kind of activities. And just for you to know, this technology which I am referring to has been vetted by two different organizations. One is Delhi Metro, which understands the rail capacity as well as the rail movement. And second is the ADB and PwC. And both have evaluated a technology with specific to JNPT and come out that this is something which is viable. That is why today Ministry of Shipping, Special Logistics, Government of India, Department of Economics and Industry, as well as my friend from DFC, everybody is looking at this option which can be given from the industry side. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Harsh. We have another gifted speaker with us, Mr. Surendra Khare. He is Chief Technical Advisor, Jindal Rail Infrastructure Limited. If you can kindly not go for the presentation, just say extempore, maybe 2 or 3 main slides only. Okay.
Basically, we have created the infrastructure for DFC, and also we are listening from morning that we have to follow non-conventional traffic, because non-conventional traffic boosts the revenue of Indian Railway. Coal, as you can compare from 2015 to 2023-22, say 50% increase in traffic of the Indian Railway. In 2015-16, 1,000 million ton traffic has been done by Indian Railway, and after that in 2020 we are listening that we are crossing 1,500. So we have increased 50% traffic in past 5 years. So we can increase the achieving freight share 45% easily, as DFC is doing well and about to finish its target. 80% target has been completed. But where is the connectivity from DFC to last and first mile connectivity? That is the major challenge. And where are the wagons? Generally, wagons are general purpose wagon. We are saying that we have floated tender of procuring say 80,000 wagon in 3 years' time. But generally, these are general purpose wagon having capacity of 22.9, and conventional way we cannot achieve this target with conventional wagon. We have to think about the automation, minimal intervention, and logistic, as our JSPL guys had told, that logic with stick measurement. So we have to do that also. And for that, as within 3 years execution, and we are 3 pillars present in the forum. One is regulator or investor, one is industry, and third one is wagon manufacturer. Because your idea will float only through wagon. We can increase the capacity revenue by share rail, and after some time we want to see that short distance like Demu and Memu type freight carrier should also run, so they can approach single city to other city, say 50 kilometer, 100 kilometer, and also...
Can you conclude, please, Mr. Khare?
Yes. Also, a truck on wagon. So, loaded truck on wagon, and which should be expandable also. Wagon may be expandable. So, steel industry and traffic industry can use that type of wagon, which will increase the road traffic road share.
I'm sorry to be making it brief with all of you, but we will share all the presentations with the industry holders and the industry and the stakeholders. So thank you very much, Mr. Khare. We have the last speaker, Mr. V.N. Singh from Fulltas. I would like to ask you a very direct question. How do you think Fulltas is going to help the railways and the industry achieve this, the theme of today's conference, that is 45% market share? What is Fulltas doing about it?
Sir, Fulltas is not directly connected to any freight business, but we are connected to infrastructure. What I feel, my understanding is, infrastructure is the basic need if we want to increase freight. And Fulltas initially was part of dedicated freight corridor from the day of inception. And we have written the methodology of how quickly the track construction can be done. Our contribution to this aspect is we Indianize the machine, which reduces the cost of mechanized track laying, and now the mechanized track laying cost is almost equal to the manual track laying. Till now, the DFCC is following the methodology written by us. And we demonstrated in the first project in DFCCIL how the track can be laid by mechanized methods.
One question, which is currently again part of the policy, Indian Railways trying to move from CapEx to OpEx. How do you think about it?
That is,
what are the challenges?
So there are challenges. Actually, railway, a lot of railway retired officials are sitting here. Their policy is so, I will not say bureaucratic. If you want to go OPEX, there's no problem. But suppose somebody is investing a huge amount of money, he didn't get blocked. You cannot, and if you don't get blocked.
You mean the continuity of the business is a
yes
prerequisite for, so
right.
that's a bottleneck.
That's the biggest bottleneck, sir.
Yeah.
And
Any other?
And
And
a
then
small
we'll
point,
conclude, please.
apart from that, sir, small point regarding the freight. I have a couple of friends. I come from Bihar. So the railway has done some tender of PFT mode for private freight terminal. But the policy is so complex. A policy, if I have bidded for a freight terminal, you are calculating revenue of 10 years, asking to give me the PBG and one go for how much freight will be collected within 10 years. So I will request, because my director DFCC is here, so if a policy can be formulated, that small player can also take a part into this PFT.
Thank you, Mr. Singh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your insightful remarks. Would you like to conclude?
Basically, everyone is concerned about increasing the freight share and all that. Some of the things which have been said about involvement of private participation and the new technology, what Dhingraji has said is already under consideration. We have been considering that with JNPT. We have been in consultation with JNPT. We have evaluated it. So some of the things which you are talking, Mr. Singh, the construction of the private freight terminal is open to everybody, small people also. And our freight terminals are not costing very big. It's starting with about 8 to 10 crores and the investment is being recouped. The entire thing is being recouped. People are free to operate. That handling charges itself will pay for it. And there is traffic. Wherever the potential is there, people have been coming and it is there. We are developing traffic and terminals there only. Many of the problems which people have raised as problems are constraints for the railway stagnating or dwindling share of railway has been because of the capacity constraints and policy constraints. DFC has been conceived in such a way that it will become the solution. Panacea for many of the problems, capacity as well as operational efficiency, as well as some of the customer-centric policies. Now that is the way we are looking forward to. I am hopeful that with our commissioning fully and as well as future corridors, which I did not show, but there are some progress which is happening, we will be able to solve these problems. And the special purpose vehicles, wagons, which people have been talking about, so those wagons are also coming up under private participation. And the other policy which is going to be there is, somebody has mentioned, is some of the things that we have to break away from the old tradition, the constraints of size as well as constraints of tariff, class-based tariffs. These we are deviating and we are coming out with the new policy, which I hope will be the harbinger of new growth. So I think you can.
It's my privilege to convey sincere appreciation and thanks to the gifted panelists here. It has been a very insightful session from the morning. We have had a lot of data crunching. We have had a lot of interesting speakers who have given futuristic outlook, and I'm sure the railways would take note of that. We will be compiling all the recommendations and we would share it with the Ministry of Railways and come back to the stakeholders. Thank you very much. It has been a very gifted audience. Thank you very much.